welcome back to Vlogtember. It's the 2nd of September. We're still going strong. I'm making a video every single day in September. Today's video is going to be a book review. I have a lot of opinions on this book. I'm going to give you a spoiler-free plot overview and then I'll go into it, so I'll tell you when the spoiler is. So the plot of this book is called The Other Mothers by Catherine Faulkner. It's told from two different women's perspectives and they alternate, and one is called Tash. She used to be a journalist. Now she's trying to get her career off the ground as a freelance journalist. She has a son called Finn and she meets the other mothers at the playgroup and develops a friendship with them. She is also trying to write an article about a woman called Sophie who died while wild swimming, and you find that out right at the beginning because Tash wrote an article about Sophie's death saying it was wild swimming, but she always thought it was more than that, and she was kind of begrudgingly writing that article, so she decides to look into it herself. Then it alternates to Sophie's perspective and it's counting down to her death. So you find out what was going on in her life up to the point when she died, and obviously finding out what happened to her. And then Tash realises that the other mothers at the playgroup actually have a connection to Sophie. I'm now going to do spoilers. Oh, it was depressing. It was really kind of not my book, to be honest with you, but not every book can be your book, and I'm sure like the author, if she saw this review, would be like, oh, that's fine, not everyone can like every single book. I didn't like any of the characters, and I don't have to like any of the characters or relate to them to read the book, but I just really didn't get their perspectives on things, and I just wasn't very interested in them. I didn't feel that we got a lot of backstory into Tash's childhood, and so we're learning about her trying to work out what's happened to Soph, but we don't know anything about her childhood or her really as a person. She lived with her husband Tom. I hated Tom. I hated the other mothers. The only one I liked was the woman who got postnatal depression. I actually felt really, really sorry for her. Also, there was a lot of talk about money problems. So Tash wanted another baby and wanted to move into a bigger house, but they couldn't because they didn't have enough money to do that because they were only living off her husband Tom's salary as a doctor at the hospital. But then, so they're talking about the overdraft and then her getting into debt, getting this credit card because she's trying to keep up with the lifestyle of all the other mothers at the playgroup, who are a group who live in massive houses, have luxurious lifestyles, are off to the spa, buying £5 croissants, all that kind of stuff. And she is living in a basement flat and she can't keep up with their life, and so she's just kind of faking it by getting herself into debt. And I was thinking, oh, okay. And then we realised her father was a famous war photographer and she could just sell his photographs and she would get enough money to buy a bigger house and for them to have another child. Then why don't you just sell the photography? I didn't get it at all. There was a lot in the group. So it was all the women, all their husbands, and then these other people who were friends with Sophie. It was like, and then this other mother who you're thinking, well, how is she connected to the plot? Like, it was a lot of people to remember and to like care about when I didn't even care about the main character. I didn't like Soph, and she's the one who you're trying to find out what's happened to her, who's killed her. I didn't really like her. So she was a nanny to one of the women, one of the other mothers at the playgroup. That's how they all knew her. And she was just really domineering. And I think in the book you were supposed to like her, but I just couldn't stand her. There was a bit where the woman's pregnant and in the baby's room is all the clothes, and the clothes have all got their tags on, and before you have a baby you take all the tags off, you wash all the clothes. And Sophie did it. She ripped all the tags off the clothes and then put all the clothes on for a boil wash when the woman had told her, I want to do that. She also, the woman had postnatal depression and she was struggling to breastfeed as well. And then Sophie was topping up the baby with formula in a bottle, giving it to the baby. And she thought she was helping throughout the whole thing. And I think we were supposed to think that she was doing what was best for the kids, but I just thought she was interfering. So then she started having an affair with the woman who's suffering postnatal depression's husband. So they're all in the house, she's having this affair, so obviously it's all gonna go wrong at the end, and someone wants to get rid of Sophie and all that. And it's not who you think it is, because you think it might be the husband who's having an affair with Sophie, or the woman with postnatal depression. You think she's just snapped and maybe she's killed her or something. And then Tash is thinking, is it her husband? Or was it Tom who did it? And then you find out it was someone completely different. It was just one of the women in the group who wanted to use that for money. So to blackmail the couple and say, so the woman with postnatal depression thought she had pushed Sophie over the banister. and then the woman turns up, just happens to turn up at the right time, just happens to show up, and they're like, oh my god, we think she's dead, the nanny, I accidentally pushed her. And then the woman says yes, she's dead, but can feel that she's not dead, and decides to smother her and then blackmail them with it. So say, can you help us out financially because we're really struggling. Her husband gets struck off because he basically sexually assaults a woman, and he sexually assaults the nanny in this, even though he didn't kill the nanny. It's just like a lot going on, and a lot that I wasn't really that interested in, to be honest. I thought it was going to be more about being a mum. I thought it was going to have the thriller element, of course, but a bit more about her day-to-day motherhood, and then it was left on a cliffhanger. So it's depressing, really, really depressing, the end, because at the end, Tash is pregnant. The Jez, who they keep calling in it, is the dad, but she's pushed him off a cliff because she thought he had killed Sophie. He was the husband who was having an affair with Sophie. So Jeremy, who's dead, he gets pushed, oh my god, right at the beginning. So the first chapter, this is why I didn't like it, the first chapter tells you someone's been pushed off a cliff, but it doesn't say who. And you know that Tash is in a police station and she's pushed someone off a cliff, someone's fallen off a cliff. And then it goes back in time to before she met the mothers and her meeting the mothers. So I hate that in films where it's a woman, the first scene is a woman running in the woods screaming, and then it goes 4 months later. So throughout the whole film, you're just waiting, it's leading up to that point. I feel like that's too big a spoiler for me personally. And then when they all confronted her on the cliff, I was like, someone's getting pushed off, because you literally told me right at the beginning, so there was no kind of shock factor to that. But anyway, so she's pushed Jeremy off a cliff because she mistakenly thought it was him. And then she and Jeremy had a little affair, Tash and Jeremy, so she's pregnant. So in the end, she's pregnant with his baby. Another woman says, I know what happened, but she doesn't know that Tash pushed Jeremy off the cliff. Just someone pushed Jeremy off the cliff, but we know who actually killed Sophie, and we want to expose that. And she's just like, oh, okay. So then at the end, she's left like crying and just thinking, oh, so my husband's either going to find out that he's not actually the father of my baby, and that I pushed someone off a cliff. And then it's just the whole thing is like, what? At the end, Tash killed Jeremy, and Tash is now pregnant with Jeremy's baby, and Jeremy's dead. It was just a lot. It was a lot going on in this, to be honest. And I wasn't that interested in anyone's storyline. So that is the other mothers. So I'm going to end it here. I'll of course see you tomorrow for another video, as I'm doing a video every day in September. So I will see you tomorrow for another video. Fell through the ground like Alice.